song from Stevie Nicks with Fleetwood Mac when Stevie and a fellow band member who had been in a relationship, the relationship was falling apart, and Stevie wondered, can I continue doing what I'm doing with Fleetwood Mac and still be performing with this person where the relationship is crumbling? And so that's where that song comes out of. And it asks us the question, if we can survive the landslide, if we can, she says in the song that she's afraid of changing. And a lot of us have put lots of effort into not changing. Now, some people tell me they like change, and typically it's people who say they like change as long as it's something that they can control and that they can choose. Like if they're changing the furniture in the house and they can choose what furniture to put in there, and oh, isn't that nice? Change is so nice. But if it's a change like a sudden change of their job that is out of their control, if it's a change like a change in their health, if it's a change like in their family, where something in the family has just gone haywire, if it's a change like the way we view life just changes and doesn't fit. I remember as a child sitting in the hallway outside of room number 6. I was often sitting outside in the hallway. I was learning to go into the silence. And I remember watching a man walking by. He had on a suit, and he looked so professional and dignified, and he didn't even turn to look at me. And I'm just staring at him, and I was guessing. In my second grade mind, I was thinking, oh, I bet he's maybe about 40. I don't know. But I was guessing maybe he's about 40. He looks so professional. He looks so put together. I can't wait till I'm 40 when everything is going to be perfect and all put together. And I'm still waiting. Are you? So we have these illusions that life teaches us about the temporary things to let go of so that we can embrace that which is enduring, that which is really absolute, that which is enduring. And this is July, hard to believe. I feel like I'm still back in 2020 or something. But yeah, it's July of 21, they tell me. And typically in July, we're looking at the 12 powers. Unity has 12 big powers. They align with the 12 apostles, 12 months, and so forth. And the power for the month of July is understanding, and it's symbolized by the color gold, because understanding, that's like gold. If you can get real understanding of something. And also here at Unity and Marin, we celebrate Metaphysical Movie Month. And we forgot to say in the first service, so you'll get to hear this, that, and I'll be here next Sunday, but Reverend Deanne Morency, our new associate minister, is going to bring us a metaphysical message based on West Side Story. So you want to be with us next week. But I've always loved Lord of the Rings. I have several favorite movies, and if I told you what they were, you would go home scratching your head saying, wow, I bet his therapist had to work hard. Anyway, they include movies like Amélie. I don't know if you've ever seen the French movie Amélie. and Fight Club, and just several. One with Kafka, Jeremy Lyons. If you want to, be sure to have your Prozac handy. So I like a variety. And Lord of the Rings is this trilogy. Now, I've read all the books, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. There's 3 different books, and I've read them through at least 3 times. And I've watched the movies more times than I can count. And they're very, very powerful in that they contain archetypes. Archetypes are these themes that you find in common in different stories. And these archetypes call to us because they're a part of all of us. They're a part of our journey. The Lord of the Rings is really a story about us. Just like the Bible is a story about us. I've had people tell me, why would I read a book that was written, some of it 2,000 years ago, some of it longer back than that? What does that have to do with my life? And I respond, because it's written about your life. And they're like, how's that? Because it's raising up those principles and those archetypes that are universal to each one of our journeys. Same with the Lord of the Rings. You find these archetypes. So the first archetype, now, are you familiar with Joseph Campbell's hero's journey? Yeah. If you can visualize a circle, and at the top of the circle is the call to adventure, often coming from a supernatural voice or some special character calling the person into adventure, which then leads to crossing the threshold and going into this area of trials and temptations and tribulations and eventually into the abyss. Sounds like a great time. And here's the thing. You see it in so many different accounts, like Jesus, coming into the public view, really strong public view with being baptized and then beginning to speak about his mission, knowing this is going to land in some very unfavorable ways, but there is something really powerful, real big transformation that's going to come from it. The same with the Buddha, who decided, hey, I'm going to step out of the palace. I want to see how people live outside of the palace. And what the Buddha found was suffering. Wow, there's a lot of suffering. And this is the thing about stepping out. That there are these phrases in Lord of the Rings that I absolutely love. Samwise is the close companion and friend of Frodo in the Lord of the Rings. Frodo is the protagonist in this story. But Sam, in some ways, is the real hero. Sam is the one who really holds in there and supports Frodo when things are their worst, and he stays true no matter what other people do. And so they're leaving home, and these are hobbits. Do you know what hobbits are? Hobbits are about this tall. They have feet about this long. The feet are covered with lots of hair or fur. They walk barefoot. And they have pointed ears. They love to eat. They eat several times a day. Like they'll have a first breakfast. Then they'll have a second breakfast. They might have tweensies, something in between. They have a lunch and a second lunch and... Levinses. Yes, I forgot. Thank you. They have all these comforts. They love to be at home and drinking songs and, they're about being comfortable. And that symbolizes us being comfortable. I don't want to go on an adventure. And with hobbits, people who go on adventures are looked down on. I say, ooh. They talk about Frodo's uncle, Bilbo. Ooh, he went on an adventure. Like, it's the worst thing a hobbit could possibly do is go on an adventure and get out of their hobbit hole and go out into some area that is unknown to them. Unheard of. Wow, how radical. Now, in the first service, I asked for a show of hands, and I saw what a minority I was in. So I'm going to ask again, just so I can get a feel for who I'm talking with. How many of you grew up in a family that had a very strict script that you had to follow, and you had to follow this program, and it was programmed into you, and there were dire consequences if you stepped out of the script, if you did things different from your family? How many? Okay, there's a few of you. But a lot of you not. And I wonder to myself, what would it be like to be you that didn't grow up with that? Wow. Because I was taught that, hey, this is the way you live. These are the rules that you live by. And those are reinforced every day. And every day it is reinforced that if you step outside of those rules, you are going to hell to burn forever. Now, all the rules didn't make sense, but it's like, I don't want to burn in hell. So I just use that as a frame of reference, that the hobbits had this real strict view of not stepping out of their comfort zone. So if you all didn't grow up with that, what keeps you from stepping out of your comfort zone? Anyway, so this call to adventure is this call from Spirit, and that's symbolized by Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings. Gandalf is this wizard that has this close relationship with the hobbits and with others. He's this mentor, he's this guide. They don't fully know who he is, actually. I mean, it comes out more and more. But Gandalf encourages Frodo to go on this adventure, to leave home, because Frodo has this ring that needs to be taken care of, and they need to get some advice on it. And Gandalf doesn't even want to touch the ring. And so Gandalf calls him to adventure, and Samwise ends up going along with them, and they're in a field, and Sam says, Mr. Frodo, if I go forward one more step, I will be further from home than I've ever been before. It's a great line. Then you watch him, and he takes this step, going outside of his comfort zone, further from home than he's ever gone before. There's great lines. There's another line that says something like this, and I'm sorry it's not an exact quote, but that once that you go out, you have no idea where it's going to lead you. And you can never come back to the way it was. And that's true. When you go on the hero's journey, when you step across the threshold, when you call, when you follow this call from Spirit, because see, each and every one of us is the presence of God. Each and every one of us is the bearer of this light. Each and every one of us is the expression of this divine light symbolized by Gandalf. It's an archetype of the Christ self, the Christ light, the divine life that each and every one of us are. And when we listen to that call, and Spirit does call, now you can try to not answer the phone when Spirit calls, but Spirit calls. And Spirit can call through various means. And as Michael Beckwith says, we can either be pulled by a vision or pushed by our pain. It's our choice. Which do you prefer? But Spirit, life has this ability to push us out of our comfort zone, to get us out of our hobbit hole, and to see life in a whole new way. And like that first quote that Marya read, that those who answer this call discover what it can be like to fully live. Because here's the trick. As long as we stay in the hobbit hole, we're actually keeping ourselves imprisoned from fully experiencing what life is for us. That call of Spirit, symbolized by Gandalf. So first you have this call to adventure, and then you have these trials and tribulations and difficult things that you face. I'm not even going to ask in this service. In one service at one place, I asked, how many people here have ever faced something really, really difficult that shook you to your core that you didn't know if you could survive or not? Oh, okay. But, I was surprised with the people who didn't raise their hands. Like, really? You've never faced anything that shook you to your core to the extent that you didn't know if you could survive it? I actually feel a little sorry for you. But I take consolation in knowing you will have your opportunity. Life is good that way. Spirit is good that way. Some of us have had multiple opportunities throughout our lives to go through these things. And the reason why I say that it's a great opportunity is that, look, I'm still living. In fact, I've grown through the experience. What that has shown me is that those very, very difficult things that I faced that I thought might just end me, didn't end me at all. In fact, what they revealed more of was this Christ light, the real me that was never born and will never die. So it's like that scripture in Hebrews that I really love that says that all of us will face this day where everything that is shakeable will be shaken so that that which is unshakable will remain. So, it's the great shake-up or the great shakedown. And we find out what is really enduring, what is really absolute in those moments. St. John of the Cross, Spanish mystic, said that he talked about the dark night of the soul. And what he meant by that was anybody who's really serious about this spiritual journey will face a time where there's emptiness, darkness, and the purpose of it is that it helps us to detach from that which is temporary, to detach from those things, those attachments that are not absolute and in our highest good, so that we can center in on that which is truly absolute and enduring, which is that light, that presence. So, the call to adventure, and then facing our fear. And this is symbolized in the movie Lord of the Rings by Gandalf. He's with Frodo and Sam, and there's the elf Legolas, and there is the king who has not accepted being a king yet, called Aragorn and Boromir. I mean, there's these various characters. And so they're being chased by a Balrog. Don't you hate it when that happens? I mean, think about the last time a Balrog showed up in your life. Wasn't that hard? You may be saying, what is a Balrog? Okay, a Balrog. So the Balrog is this humongous demon. In Lord of the Rings, tremendous height, mean, and, Gandalf just stands and faces him, looks right into him. Yeah, you got the line. He's just looking right into him. His jaws wide open, and you see all this flame and fury and anger and hate. And Gandalf is facing it. Frodo and the others are like, Gandalf, come on. Don't stand there. Gandalf's facing it, facing the fear. So we have the call to adventure, and then we face our fear. Marya, do you have that quote again? That would be great. Thank you. We did this first service too. Thanks. So this second quote says, but I don't think fighting monsters is all that courageous. I think the ultimate act of courage is standing still in the face of a monster. And that's what Gandalf does. Courage is looking closely enough into its jaws to see it for what it is, an illusion. The monster isn't real. It's your fear of the monster that is real. And just about anything in life can look like a monster if the light is just right. Thank you. So Gandalf is facing this Balrog. Frodo's trying to stop him, but they're holding Frodo back. And Gandalf is, using his staff, and the Balrog tries to strike him down, but he uses the light, and the Balrog cannot strike him down. And then Gandalf slams his staff into the bridge that he and the Balrog are standing on. He says, I am the keeper of the secret flame. That's what you are. Remember, this is your story. This isn't about some mythical characters. It's about you. You are the bearer of the light. You are the bearer of this secret flame. You are the bearer of this light. And nobody knows that if Gandalf can really face off with the Balrog. And this represents our Christ self, our divine presence, standing in the face of fear, looking it dead in the eye, and saying, you shall not pass. And in that moment that Gandalf slams the staff into the bridge splits. The Balrog falls into the abyss. And Gandalf is like, ugh, and turns to walk away. The Balrog has this fire whip, whoosh, and catches Gandalf by the leg and pulls Gandalf into the abyss with him. Have you ever been to the abyss? I'm not going to ask for hands, but I can see some nodding heads. And you might be asking yourselves, which time? Which abyss? Right? It's that place where, again, you wonder, can I survive this? what's going to happen to me, and it's the place of transformation. How many of you have seen the first movie? How many of you have seen the second movie? Okay. Spoiler alert. Now, some of you may not watch it, but maybe you will after this talk. You know, someone came up to me, a couple people came up to me last Sunday or Sunday before and said, "Isn't Lord of the Rings a guy movie?" Well, I think it's a movie of all of us. It's a story of all of us. Now, someone else from here told me I had to turn it off. It was too dark. And I thought, well, it wasn't as dark as several times in my life. But it's really about the light. It's really about this hero's journey. And so, the abyss. Gandalf falls into the abyss with the Balrog. We don't find out until the second movie, The Two Towers. Okay, spoiler alert. That Gandalf, to all apparent purposes, looked like he died after the Balrog was slain. But then, he comes to life, but he's transformed. He's been transformed from Gandalf the Grey in tattered gray clothing to brilliant white. I mean, when I watched this, every time I've watched it, I've thought of Jesus, the story of the resurrection, being crucified and beaten and looks like it's all over and horrible, and then 3 days later coming up in this purified spiritual body. And you see this theme in lots of different literature and accounts, that it's not over. Because what we really are is this eternal spirit soul. What we really are is this Christ light. What we really are is, if you will, Gandalf. We really are this presence of God that was never born and will never die. And when you feel yourself slipping into the abyss, hey, and an abyss is an abyss. I don't mean that it's going to be fun, but you survive, and not only survive, you thrive and transform. It's transformative. So the second step is to face your fear. So first step is call to adventure. Second step is to face your fear. Third step is to allow the transformation to occur. Real transformation is available for each and every one of us. No matter what country we're in, I know at times we've had hundreds of people watching from India or other countries. No matter what country we're in, no matter what culture we are, no matter our ethnicity, our faith tradition, each of us, by the power and presence of Spirit, is called to new adventure, to new ways of living out this divine life. And in this, we face our fears, and then we can experience real transformation. Transformation that is so strong that a year from now you won't even recognize yourself. I looked at myself in the mirror a couple days ago. I see myself in the mirror every day. But this day I really looked at myself. It's like, I don't quite recognize you. There's a lot of stuff that's happened since we had this real view, and stuff has shifted in you. When you go through real transformation, wow. And this is symbolized by, so Gandalf shows up in the woods, and there's, Gimli the elf and Legolas, or Gimli the dwarf, Legolas the elf, and Aragorn the king-to-be. And they're faced by this white light, and they're going to attack it because they think it's someone else. And all their weapons are just... And then you see Gandalf standing in his full light, his full glory, which is us coming into our full glory, coming into our full light. As Jesus said to the Father, show me the glory I had with you before the creation of the world. That's our prayer. Show me the glory I had before I even had this face. Show me the glory I had before any of this was manifested. That's what you are. And so Gandalf standing there, bright light, even has a different staff. And Aragorn walks up to him and says, Gandalf. And he stops for a moment. He says, oh yes, that's what they used to call me. He had transformed so much he didn't even recognize his name. We are called the Transformation. This is a transformation center. So welcome to Transformation. See, the good news is all of us are going to go through this stuff, but doesn't it help to have some principles and some support that can help guide us in the way so that we can understand the journey? That's what I used to do as a hospital chaplain. I would work with people, they're like, it's the worst time of their life, but we would look for the meaning and the light that is in whatever they are experiencing in their life. You are this light. You are this Christ presence. We are here to answer the call to adventure, to face our fear, and allow ourselves to transform. Are you ready? Yeah. Not everyone just jumps and shouts like... I always love those great silences. Like, ready or not. It's kind of nice in the Hobbit hole with first breakfast, second breakfast, and elevensies, and yeah. Spirit is good. Spirit is always seeking to help us outside the door and answer the call to adventure. Spirit is always helping us to get outside of our comfort zone. So please repeat after me these affirmations. I am a hero.
I am a hero.
I am on the hero's journey.
I am on the hero's journey.
I am the divine light.
I am the divine light.
And this light cannot be put out.
And this light cannot be put out.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.